Hey, what is up, guys? It's Guiltspire here, and welcome back to Champions of the Fog. Today, I am once again joined by the lovely Psycho Mantis. How you doing today, Psycho?
Good, good, good. I believe we have Undying Alliance and Envy going today.
That would be correct. Very interested to see how this match goes. Envy, I do believe, won their first match against Sample Text, where Undying Alliance did end up taking a draw due to some circumstances beyond our control. With that being said, this will be a big match for both teams to see who will potentially be undefeated, theoretically speaking. So this is a very important match, I think. And Envy is going to be putting all the cards on the table, I do imagine. So, very much looking forward to this. With that being said, I do believe Undying Alliance is killing first. So, we're going to be joining them right now and getting Envy on in so that we can confirm their builds. Alright. But, what have you been up to recently, Psycho? Anything much?
Oh, practicing. I might have a game tomorrow that I might be playing in. Who knows?
Very
Maybe
nice.
practicing with one of these maps that we're playing tonight. The maps I believe we have Cold Tower and Rancid Abattoir.
Yep, that would be correct.
Cold Tower is everybody's favorite comp map. When I first started playing in leagues, after about a month and a half, I would just ask every league. I would go like, "Why is it always Cold Tower?" I didn't understand it for the longest time. I'm like, "Why?" Like I'm used to playing video games where like, hey, you're playing Overwatch, you got like tons of different maps going on. I'm like, "Why is it always Cold?" I didn't get it, and that's one thing I love about this league is we see all different maps, and I know that not every map is perfectly balanced for every killer. But that's the perfect setting for something like this. You can pick your killer. It's not a random map. You know you can plan in advance, so you don't pick the bad killer on the map. It makes no sense for them unless you want to challenge yourself.
Exactly, exactly. And that's one of the big thoughts that I had regarding COTF was wanting to integrate things where you might not normally see in other leagues or tournaments and saying, okay, we normally only see like a handful of maps. Well, let's get the community to vote on what maps they like the most, and I'll try and pick and choose between all of them and be able to figure out, what that will look like and have a wide variety that many different killers will be able to be utilized on. So, that was one of my big intentions with having this a plethora of maps available and doing 2 maps every single match as well, which also kind of breaks up the monotony. That way you're not doing 4 matches on one map. I know on Vigos that kind of got a bit tedious really quick. Like, yeah, that's great and all. You know what map you're on, and you'll know it well by the end of your match. But, nice to kind of shake things up here and there.
Yeah, that was a big reason why we picked Ironworks because we figure it's the kind of map you couldn't get insanely bored of because of its a little bit of diversity across the map. I saw some teams would pick like Undying Alliance actually picked Hawkins, and I don't know how they managed to play on Hawkins that many times a week. I would quit. Oh God.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, that was something that their original captain had chosen, which, to be fair, if an instance that Hawkins is played well, it can result in scenarios too where you'll have a really advantageous match, especially if you leave things like the upside down as well as the upstairs gen to the last 2. That can almost secure you a win without question. The only trouble is getting to that point. And honestly, I will say some of the loops in Hawkins are utterly absurd if you know how to use them well. Some of those rooms where you have that inside area where it has those 2 staircases going up and around. You can loop that theoretically for however long you want, and eventually, once the killer catches up to you, of course, you have that pallet to extend the chase, go back up there again, take a hit, and move on to the next tile. I mean, it can waste the killer's time quite substantially. And so, Hawkins played well, really good for survivors, but as you see most times, it's one of the best matches or maps for killers instead.
I'll tell you what that map is one of the best of. Totem spawns for killers. There are spawns on that map. You will not find that totem without an aura reading perk.
Yeah,
They'll be
it,
hidden in
it
a
can
corner
be
in a
quite
box.
difficult.
like in a most random spot.
Yeah, Leary's is very similar to that, to where sometimes they can just, like, be in a box facing a wall, so you have to, like, go back and check it in order to find it. Thankfully, Hawkins isn't that bad. At the same time, I feel like these survivors here, know their maps inside and out. I know Sampletex, for example, has callouts for, different totem spawns, and if they spawn on a certain map, they're like, okay, is it here, 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 or here, or here? And they all kind of spread out and go find it just in that fashion. But it does look like we have everyone in the lobby. I just want to check with our ref Giraffe. Is everyone ready?
I am waiting on one more survivor build.
Perfect. Thank you much. Awesome. So it shouldn't be too long now before we jump into our first match. And I'll just remind High Surveillance that we are on Cold Tower first.
Not a bad idea. Might as well avoid a reset if we can.
Exactly. Ideally, the killers will always be aware of that fact, but, a light reminder never hurts anyone. No one's infallible at the end of the day.
And I like that there's no point deductions in this league for that kind of stuff, because it's really hard to decide what the proper amount of punishment is for that.
Yeah.
You just reset it, give people a chance. If you want to change your killer, change your killer, change the build. It just levels the playing field. It allows for a reset, but a fair reset. It doesn't pigeonhole either side to get punished for such a simple mistake as setting the wrong map.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the bigger things that, coming and creating COTF, there was a lot of time and thought going into, okay, how can we make this fair for everyone while understanding that, mistakes can be made? And with that being said, I felt that point penalties, though they definitely ensure that people are more careful, it doesn't always do much good, as it's really hard to balance what is enough of a point penalty, what's too little, what's too much, and so on and so on. So I figured that resets were a little bit more acceptable in that regard.
For sure.
Alright, looks like we have all 4 survivors ready. Just wanted to confirm one more time that everyone's ready to go, Giraffe?
We're all good to go.
Awesome. I will let them know, and we'll be jumping right into this match, just waiting on Surveillance to ready up. Alright, they know they're good to go, and I'm looking forward to this match. Of course, you and I have a little bit of some inside information on what High Surveillance here is playing, and I'm very curious to see how this will work out for them. Obviously, everyone at home will know soon enough, and I think, at least for me, I'm very familiar with this killer on this map. Actually, one of my first matches in Vigo's Court, I believe, was this map with this killer, too.
Definitely. There's a lot of strong killers on Cold Tower. You have your obvious, spirits. The Hag is good here. Just, basically any good killer that can get good gen pressure without having to move across the map. Like, this is a tight packed map. So if you have anything that can be good at utilizing spreading pressure out, it's really good.
No, absolutely, absolutely. The main concern with this map, in my opinion, is the fact that totem spawns are god-awful. They spawn in the middle of nowhere, open air. There's no real place to hide these totems.
Yeah.
Because of how small this map is. Which means that, if you're using the tried and true Corrupt Ruin Pop, then your Ruin's going pretty quickly. Now, mind you, if by some means that these survivors do not find Ruin early, and you're able to apply some early game pressure, and that's amazing. That puts you in such a good position. But otherwise, it can just be such a painful thing for anyone running totem builds.
I actually really prefer Surge on a map like this, because it's such a tight map. You can hit like 4 gens easily every time you down somebody with Surge on this map, because of how tight it is.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, on an M1 killer, it definitely makes a lot of sense. No doubt about that. But with that being said, we should be jumping in momentarily. And let's see who High Surveillance has brought, and it is a Booba.
Ooh, Lord Booba.
So I'm very interested about one thing out the gate. So, the build seems pretty common in my opinion. You have your Corrupt, you have your Ruin, Undying instead of Pop, which is a bit questionable in my opinion. And then, of course, Bamboozle. The Chainsaw Bros do always love that, are able to just apply so much pressure with Bamboozle, as we see right here in this instance. Now, we do see an anti-vault there. With these chilies, I mean, you're getting roughly, what is that? A full, I think, like, 0.5 per charge for ward winning, and 0.25 per charge for the chili. So that's like 0.7 charge per additional, which is pretty insane. No, personally, I'm a fan of Be Smart just because I do get that ability of traversing the map a little bit quicker. You know, Bubba, for those who don't know, when using Chainsaw, is able to move around at 130 speed, the equivalent of Legion's Fatal Frenzy. So with Be Smart, you're able to zoom across the map even faster.
And high surveillance here on this Bubba, hitting a lot of great starts to this team here, moving it down and then hitting the survivors off that gen that was already. Hitting Ruin Valley right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Ruin is a huge part right now, you know, getting that gen regressing, that early hook, and putting that in the middle of their active gens was really, really strong. It does appear that they're looking to try and tunnel out Kizaki very quickly here, which, you know, might be the right move, but there's that possibility that Kizaki has a decisive strike in hand. So we'll have to keep that in mind.
Only a 25% chance, though. You don't hear DS in this league.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, if Bubba here is going to camp and tunnel, it's very possible that the best play for these survivors is to simply sit on generators. Every single hook stage is about 60 seconds worth of time, which is roughly, I want to say 2/3, roughly 3/4, I guess 3/4 of a generator. So that's really important to note that if a killer is playing in this fashion, probably the best thing to do is simply just don't go for the unhook.
Be bad. This could be out of the game right now, Survivor possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Bubba is going to do exactly that, and Bubba does not fear the DS, as Kizaki is now known to not have it in hand. So they're going to have to drop pallets quite early, and I'm surprised not to see anyone from Envy coming in for a body block. I think in these type of moments, I think it's just way, way too necessary to do that, because you can see here Bubba, with award-winning chili and chili, that extended amount of time per charge is utterly ridiculous. And you can just get around so far.
The only way I think this is a good call is if we see 3 survivors popping gens by the time this person dies, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I mean, with Ruin still up, those gens that they're working on were regressing, and this is a very early out. I mean, to be fair, if you look at the grand scheme of things, Bubba is behind what I refer to as ratio, which is ideally a 2-for-1, but to have a survivor out this early on 3 gens is such a powerful position for this Bubba to be in. So it's going to be interesting to see where Envy comes back from this.
It's going to be tough, but they can do it. They double up on gens at the right time.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't know if doubling up on gens is the right move here, theoretically speaking. It's very possible that the right move to make would be to simply, you know, split on gen pressure, have 2 gens going, but Bubba's making short work of these chases and just applying way more pressure, because at this point, for every time Bubba downs someone, that's theoretically now 2 people off of gens. The person on hook, the person off the hook, and if Bubba's able to find someone and put them in chase during that time, that means all 3 survivors are off gens at that point. So these survivors are definitely in an awkward position, though Bubba is now 2, where he does no longer have any passive gen regression.
It is true, but he's got 1 dead already and 1 on hook, so it's not going to be very much gen pressure, like you said.
Yeah, at most, we're going to see 1 person on gen. At least, it's going to be 0. And if I had to be a betting man right now, I imagine that Kate is probably going to be going for Dazzy on the hook as we speak. Unless they play it smart and know their timing and work on a gen until he gets close to the 2nd stage. But it does look like they do opt for the unhook and are going to continue to see this Bubba chasing the Meg, opting not to go for the unhook at this point in time. So I think, realistically speaking, Meg's looping Bubba pretty well. Of course, Bamboozle's going to put her into a pretty awkward position if she does want to continue to loop the cold tower itself. But Bubba, I think, has other plans and is opting to go for Ace instead.
Especially when she had that pallet, I think, still up there that she could have used.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think this is a smart chase. He already knows that, you know, there's not much value here. He's going to... I'm not sure if that was supposed to be a DS fake or if that was just supposed to be a locker fake. I mean, Bubba knew very well that DS was not in play since he saw Ace on a gen. And at this point, they need to drop that pallet, and they do not do it in time, resulting in that vacuum pallet instead. I mean, that's a big thing about Bubba. You need to respect the amount of distance he can get, and much like other killers like Spirit, though Spirit's much harder to tell, you kind of need to feel out what add-ons Bubba has throughout the match. And in this case, with how long his chainsaws are, you have to assume at least award-winning chili, and understand that those pallets need to be dropped very, very early.
This Bubba's just laying a clinic out here.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it looks like he's going to commit to the hook, which kind of makes sense here, but he did kind of put himself in a position now to where they'll be able to at least attempt a recovery with two people still on the ground. If he just went for the, you know, slug there, I honestly think that may have been the end of the game.
Quite possibly, but he's got a pretty good spot right here. I don't think this game's going to get away from him unless something crazy happens.
No, I mean, you're not wrong. Do keep in mind that they do have a couple gens here and there that have some good work on them, but Ace is back down, and Bubba's going to play it safe and not pick him up, fearing for a decisive strike. And once again, though, it's possible that, you know, maybe he's overlooking a Unbreakable, for example, you know. In fact, let's take a quick look and see if Ace has it. Well, no Unbreakable, but does have that DS. And unfortunately, looks like Bubba made the right call here and did not pick up Ace at this point in time. So, you know, if you were the survivors in this case, what would be your play? Would you just try and stop the bleeding and try and just finish out one more gen? Would you, you know, what would be your thoughts here?
Well, on my team, our killers are crazy, so I would probably do like you just said and just try to get as much points as you can. Try to make it as not as crazy blow as you can. You get 2 games of 2. So it's easy, you know, if you have one bad game, you can come back from it. But if you can make it like not too crazy of a loss, maybe get somebody after the hatch who play your cards right, you know, it's a big difference.
No, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, I think right now their best bet is to try and get one more gen so hatch spawns, and they could potentially try and go for hatch play. Bubba doing a beautiful grab right there. Ace, to be fair, knowing the timing of that tantrum, but a thing to keep in mind when you're playing Bubba is that not only can you spacebar Survivor out of the locker and just grab him that way, but more reliably, if you're playing against a smart Survivor team, grabbing them with the M1 instead as they come out of the locker makes a whole lot more sense. It's a whole lot more reliable. It takes a little bit more patience for the Survivor in order to accomplish not getting grabbed there.
Definitely. Worst case scenario, you're going to get a hit out of it if you wait too long.
And look at that. Hatch did spawn right in the path of Bubba. And I don't know if the Survivor team knows it's there, but even if so, Bubba can hook here. Hope that he's able to get this kill and just sit on Hatch, which I think is exactly what he's planning on doing here.
Definitely depends on the gate spawn. You see the one gate there. I'm not sure where the other one is.
Yeah, I mean, we see one pretty close to that hatch. I'm surprised that he's walking away from it, or maybe he's just going to spin around and do a little quick dance for us. Let's see where...
I don't need it, because you can't kill yourself on hook very quickly.
Yep.
It takes time, so like he doesn't need to be standing right on top of them.
I mean, to be fair, that's fair, but at the same time, if I was him, I'd just sit on hatch and wait for the unhook. That way, if they unhook, you can follow up really quickly. Of course, Bubba is very well aware of where they're at. And thus is going to be on their way. And I don't know, like, are they going to try and hope to get hatch here? Or are they going to sit on an exit gate instead? Bubba really taking his time and continuing to hook survivors on this hook here next to this exit gate and hatch. So it's an interesting play.
Actually, dude, I would probably, if I'm the survivor, if you have Iron Will, or you can heal yourself, which they have neither of these, unfortunately, I would probably actually hide by the survivor that's on hook, because after he posts that hatch, you can go straight to the other gate.
Yeah.
And you can try to get a quick silent opening on. That's like your best bet, I feel, in this scenario.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, all things considered. I think that probably is one of the best plays to try and get one more survivor out, which will get you a few more points. We do see Bubba, who has paid a little bit of attention. Oh, this is going to be a close one. Hatch is open. And where's Kate? Or Meg, she's not here. No, she was close, but ended up going for gate instead.
could have made it.
I think they could have made it, honestly. I think that Bubba gave too much distance on that hatch. I think if Meg would have committed to the hatch play, I think they could have gotten it.
That's the other reason why I like hiding by that other gate, because it gives you the opportunity to grab hatch if you see a good shot.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, and Bubba here just on top of Meg, and there is no escape, and this will result in a 12-hook game for Mr. Bubba Boy. I mean, very nicely played. Like I said, you know, normally I don't normally think of award-winning Chili and Chili Bean work together, but it makes a lot of sense. You don't get that extended time frame, or you get more extended time frame for less speed, but I think it's working out well for him in this situation.
Oh, for sure. That Chili helped him get that early down right in the beginning of the game, and that kind of set the tone for the rest of the game for him.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that early tunnel out did help him out quite a lot. So, with that being said, that will be the first trial of this match. And Giraffe, when you are finished tallying up the score, let us know what the results are.
Undying Alliance has 55 points, and Envy has 9.
Fair enough.
Definitely really strong showing.
No.
UA killer here.
110%. Yep, that is the next question of the day. Who's going to be the killer on Envy to respond in kind? I'll let them know to add and invite me when they have a moment. So, Dummy Psycho, kind of your thoughts on that match?
I think at least we said it before. You had an early, really early down, and the survivors were doubled up on that gen. Rune was active. They lost a lot of the pressure on that gen, as well as some others when they were pressuring, and they just found the kid. The survivor didn't have DS and just took him out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really unfortunate lack of decisive strike there. And, you know, at the end of the day, it was a 1 out of 4 chance. Bubba took the chance, and I guess maybe in his mind it was like, okay, well, I can go for the tunnel, and either I'm going to get hit by a DS, and I'll know that DS is now out of the match, or I'm going to be able to get this second hook state and just tunnel someone out of the match almost immediately. And so that made a lot of sense.
That definitely seemed like a map that would have been great for camaraderie. I feel like if somebody on Hook had camaraderie, that would might be bought some more time. Something like that made it very different, I feel like.
I mean, I think the biggest play there is the fact that throughout the entire process of Bubba tunneling out that first survivor, I think the biggest thing that we didn't see was someone trying to take aggro or body block him. I think, honestly, that would have been the smartest move. Even if it resulted in a down, it still would have allowed them to spread those hook states a little bit wider and made it a bit more difficult to get that person out as early as they did.
True, but against the Bubba, especially with the Chilies, it can be really hard to body block somebody very well. They can easily just stall you and keep going, and maybe still catch up with the survivor that the Bubba's trying to tunnel out. And if they down both of them, that game's over at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. That is a hard situation to be in, and does usually result in either a make or break situation. Personally, I think in that type of situation, the best thing to do is to basically body block at pallet. So drop the pallet, sit on the other side, let the other survivor leave, and as Bubba breaks the pallet, you just sit there and go, I'll take the down or take the chase, whatever I can do in the situation.
Or just grab him, or purposely lead the Bubba into some kind of a tight hallway and just stand in the middle of it and say, you're going to have to chainsaw to get through me.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that is more likely than not the best play in that type of situation. Because if you're not spreading hook states, it can result in that type of situation, whether the Bubba's purposely tunneling out one person or not.
For sure.
But with that being said, we are getting Undying Alliance here into the survivors now.
I also believe we didn't see a single tantrum at all that game, did we?
We saw one. We saw one tantrum on the window as Bubba committed to the chainsaw down on the vault.
Yeah, if you get it down, who cares if you got a tantrum?
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter in that situation. You get it down, right? So it makes sense to me in order to, you know, if you can commit enough to it to ensure you get it, then by all means. I've made that debate sometimes where, like, okay, do I want to tempt the tantrum and miss the chainsaw, or get the chainsaw along the tantrum? It's a hard decision to make, to be honest, because you can lose a lot of distance that way.
really gonna be interested to see what Envy brings out here to try to see if they want to match up what they think they can do here.
Yeah, I am curious in seeing what Envy will bring to the table here. If we look back into their last matches, I want to say they brought in Plague as well as, was it a Pig? I'd have to double check the scorecard to check for certain on their round 1 match against Sample Text. I should take a quick look at that while we are waiting here. I'm kind of curious to see what killers they've already burned. For those who do not know, you can only use one killer, or can only use a killer one time during the regular season. So in this case, it looks like Envy already utilized Spirit and Plague. So with that being said, they have burned at least what I refer to as a top 8 killer. Plague probably not being in that same category.
You could argue they burned the top killer, depending on what your opinion on Spirit and Nurse are.
Yeah, I mean, I personally still will say that Nurse is always number 1. She just fully breaks the mechanics of the game, whereas, of course, Spirit still has to follow some of the mechanics.
That is true, but I feel like there is more counterplay to the Nurse than there is the Spirit.
There is. I mean, both of them are a situation to where you're kind of forced to mind game both sides, right? So with Nurse, you have to mind game in a way of, okay, how long is she charging, and can I dive back into her to avoid the hit, or stay around a tight loop? Where Spirit is a really hard one to dodge for obvious reason, as you kind of put yourself into a situation of, okay, let me drop a pallet or vault a window and I have to 50-50 this. You know, at the end of the day, it's a flip a coin to find out what side Spirit actually is on, unless you're running Iron Will and hoping and praying that Spirit's not running Strider to go along with it.
Yeah, it's hard to rely on counting the timer to see how much longer until they have their power back. Because of the way the Spirit's add-ons are, you don't know if, depending on the add-ons they're running, you don't know how long it's how much, that recharges and all that. Like, you can kind of estimate, but it's, if you don't know what add-ons they have, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very difficult. I actually watched Atsunaro's video and his thoughts on Spirit and why Spirit needs to be fixed. And it's not around Spirit's power necessarily, but around her add-ons, realistically speaking. Because unlike other killers like Bubba, like Pig, like others, where you can kind of figure out what add-ons they're using, Spirit's nigh impossible to figure out, as you're unable to determine, is it Mother-Daughter Ring? Is it Dirty Uabaki? Is it the Bloodied Brooch, for example? It's nigh impossible, to say the least. So that's the hard part about Spirit, and by the time you figure it out, it's already too late.
Yeah, usually the only one you can figure out pretty quickly is if they have movement speed. If you see them phase after a hook, usually that you can get a good idea if they have movement speed or not, depending on how fast they get to wherever they're going.
Exactly. But with that being said, I just want to check in. Giraffe, are we ready for this match?
Still waiting on the killer.
All right. Well, once we receive Zach's killer build, then we will be readied up. We have no information on this one, so this will be quite a surprise on what Zach is bringing here. But with that being said, they're definitely going to have to respond in kind. Could it be another Bubba? Respond Bubba with Bubba? Or will we see another top 8 killer enter the fray? 'Tis the question.
Definitely be interesting to see what they bring out here. There's lots of options for Cold Tower. Cold Tower, you could play so many killers on it. It's just a matter of where you want to play certain killers, or if there's certain killers you want to hold in your back pocket for when you need a good score. There's lots of different ways you could look at it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's the cool thing I like about Dead by Day, and why I really did want to keep it to only one use of each killer, is because there's so many different killers out there that can provide such a different style of gameplay, and there are those that are really good. Like I said, there's the top 8, and so with the amount of rounds that we have in Season 0, realistically speaking, you only need another 4 out of those top 8, whether that be Bubba, Billy, Plague, Ghostface, and the like. To really step in and see what damage they can do against the right teams. That's always the big factor there.
Mm-hmm. I also would like to thank you, Guilt. You countered one of my plans this season by nerfing Michael's add-ons, so I couldn't do the sneaky tactic I was going to do and slip in
a Tombstone Myers.
get a Tombstone piece out of nowhere can literally just get max points on a survivor just for them existing in front of me.
Fair, fair. And just want to confirm, since we are writing up draft, that the killer build was okay.
I never got sent a build.
All right. We'll double check here. It shouldn't be a problem. Though, as a reminder for all those competing, please follow the rule to ensure that you're sending the build to our refs here to confirm that you're not using something you shouldn't be, so the commentators here don't have to double check, and that we don't have to restart the match in an instance that you are. So we'll double check real quick, of course. Make sure that whatever killer they're bringing, the add-ons are of the right color. So if Draft, you could bring up the rules just to double check that, that'd be appreciated.
For sure.
But with that being said, we are diving right on into this match, and let's see what Zach is bringing today. So I did see that he mentioned Pyramid Head in the in-game chat. Not sure if that was purposeful, if that was for us or for someone else. But maybe they're bringing in Pyramid Head based on that information, which I would say is a top 8 killer in my opinion.
Definitely. It's not one of the ones you think of as the best, but in the right hands, Pyramid Head's really strong. And on a map like this, where you don't really need mobility to be having pressure, killers like Pyramid Head, Deathslinger, Huntress, all these slow-moving killers, can do a lot of damage in loops on this map.
I mean, especially if you're mixing in like perks like I'm All Ears, where you're able to see as they vault over pallets and so on.
Oh,
but
okay.
Does not look to be Pyramid Head. Instead, we have a Huntress with Corrupt, Ruin, Pop, and Shadowborn, I believe, for that extra FOB.
FOB flex, I respect it.
And then we have the Rosebud and Infantry Belt, which I do believe those two are good to go. I believe Huntress should be allowed purple and below. Draft, you could confirm that for me, be much appreciated.
Purple and below.
Perfect. Well, in that case, we are seeing a match of the Huntress. Pretty excited to see what Zach is able to accomplish.
I'm curious why did they not ignore the survivor on the gen over there?
Yeah, I did hear that gen going. I'm kind of surprised that we did not see them immediately go after that.
Yeah, I thought I saw something. I was like, was I seeing something, Guilt?
Nah, you didn't just see something, though. You also heard it, too. And Zach here trying to go for that hatchet throw, but unfortunately just not able to make that connect on that sprint burst. But find 2 survivors in a kind of an awkward position. This loop here, not too great for Nancy. Kind of an interesting mind game right there. You don't really see mind games around those low tiles very often, but it seemed to work. It seemed to get that hit that they needed, but Nancy making some good distance on that vault.
Interesting you choose to talk back a hatchet. He could have drive through the gold tower and got it down there.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. One big thing about Huntress that a lot of people forget about is that you have less fatigue when you use your hatchet and get a hit than you do when you use your M1. And right there, beautiful, beautiful hit by Huntress here. Rosebud is kind of an insane add-on that almost makes it the same speed of like Deathslinger's Spear Gun, and it's just 0 to 100 with how quickly that hatchet flies.
0 to 100 real quick.
But we see this Huntress kind of struggling a little bit. Corrupt Intervention is just about over, and at least my personal theory when it comes to playing killer in comp is that if you don't get a down in the first 2 minutes, you're kind of struggling a bit. Now, we do see a down right at the end of Corrupt Intervention.
Good save there. You need no survivors in nearby.
Yeah, I mean, the survivors are going to be setting up. We do see a Crow get disturbed there and come back, suggesting that they are on that gen. Huntress trying to once again mind game and does get some distance, so great job there. Once again, that green add-on is kind of insane, and I've seen it likened to Babushka, where it just becomes a huge game changer for those hatchets.
These killers getting really good value out of their ruins on a map like this. So surprising to me.
Yeah, I am kind of surprised about that, especially as they're on a gen, which, as we can see here from Spectator, is right next to that ruin. They must have passed by it now and should have seen that it was in play there, so I imagine that maybe you might see that ruin getting popped soon enough.
Yeah, in fact, if the Huntress leaves the area a little bit, I would not even go for the unhook. I would just pop the ruin. I wouldn't even go for the unhook at that point.
I 100% agree. I mean, fact of the matter is, as I mentioned before, each hook state takes about 60 seconds until it progresses. So if, in instance, you have someone on the hook, honestly, go for the totem first, which takes 16 seconds, and then go for the unhook after that. Or the totem, then the unhook, rather.
Oh, Nancy, no. Look where you're going, no.
Yeah, that was a rough one there. I don't think, honestly, the Huntress had expected that to happen. And it looks like they're still on this gen as we speak. I'm surprised that Claudette did not get ruined. She passed right by it earlier.
No one had to have seen it. That's the only way.
Also, I may not just realized that we're commentating over ourselves. Whoops.
Oh,
Yep, I was my bad. I did not transition screens. I was too busy talking about Huntress. Sorry for everyone there. If Drafty could apologize to chat, let them know that there is a little bit of time miss, but hopefully our great commentary captured it all. But with that being said, we are now live, and you guys can see what this Huntress is doing. Kind of a slow match at the beginning, so you didn't miss much there, but as you can see here, we are now 3 hooks in with only 1 gen, and as I've mentioned a few times now, they have been kind of struggling not getting this ruin. Yeah, I just want to let you guys know so you guys weren't hollering that I need to switch the screen. Remember, it is on a 10-minute delay. Well, with that being said, Huntress is back on the prowl, and early on, she was really struggling, but now she's starting to pick up some speed.
I still don't know how they haven't gotten that ruin out.
I mean, they finished the gen right next to it. Still quite shocking. I'm curious to see if maybe Survivor's on it now. No, no one there. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they've made the conscious choice to work through ruin and not give pop value if they assume that's what she's running. That's my only thought process there.
We're gonna see at least 1 gen pop here, maybe 2 if the Survivor team plays their cards right.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a possibility. I mean, there's one in the top of Cold Tower, there's one there. Huntress breaking this wall, I kind of do question a little bit. I personally, I don't know about yourself, Psycho. I like to only break 1 wall, and that's the one closest to the vault. Just because I feel like otherwise it opens up too much.
It depends on what killers you're playing. There are certain killers where I will refuse to actually break any of the walls.
Really?
Down there. Yeah, I won't say which ones, because maybe I'm playing it next week. But there are certain killers that it's actually not to break any of those walls. It's all different. But absolutely never break these walls up here. That is one time I can tell you, is never break those walls upstairs.
There's a few exceptions based on the RNG, where some of the walls can be beneficial, but very few and far between. I like the cheeky flashlight blind, but for those who are members of my stream, I'll always mention, just don't do it. It really just loses you so much distance that you could have been getting as the killer's breaking that pallet instead, where you could have been going away and not getting hit if the killer has a good enough headset.
And you know what would be an interesting counter to that kill? Imagine if they made an iridescent add-on to the game, that when you flashlight blind the killer, they get deafened temporarily.
I mean, that is a possibility and would definitely hurt moments like that. Now, I will note there, high surveillance playing it, making it smart and trying to extend that chase a little bit by body blocking there. That's a very smart move, but I don't know if this Steve's going to be able to capitalize, as he is kind of in a bad position, trying to fake out the Huntress Hatchet, and does manage to do it, but still gets down nonetheless, so I feel like these survivors really do need to group up and heal up soon before they keep on getting hooked like this.
I do agree, but if they keep the vent pressure going, I don't hate it, because they only really need to get like 1 or 2 survivors out, and then they have a huge lead. So
yeah, no, absolutely.
Maximize the vents.
I mean, at this point in time, wow, finally Ruin gets done. Now, I don't know if that's the right move in my opinion, and here's why. I think that Pop is much better in the late game with 3 gens left than it is in the early game.
For sure.
Because you have less gens to patrol now, so you just need to look at each gen and go, oh, this one is the one I need to pop. You go there, whereas Ruin, as long as the survivor's on it, they could just split on 3 different gens, and they don't even notice Ruin's a thing.
That is true, but these gens are so spread out, it's going to be hard for him to constantly kick these gens. So maybe it is a good call, because he's not going to be able to pressure all of them at once. Yeah,
I mean, he did lose Pop there at the end, so he was not able to really capitalize off of that value. But we do see these survivors still injured and in potential position for this Huntress to get it down. I think Claudette might be baiting out that bounce landing, I would bet here, based on how she was using that hill. You don't really see many survivors want to stay up there for too long, at least not against the Huntress.
Yeah, we need to be careful not to trust those rocks to protect you every time. As we saw in the 4 Dwights 1 Locker, that on second hook game, not all of those rocks are created equal.
Yeah, that freaking bulldozer of a hatchet was ridiculous, to say the least. Now, I will note that Claudette did not have Bounce Lane, but in fact had Sprint Burst. Did use it well enough to kind of get some distance, and it looks like Nancy's now taking aggro, but kind of getting lost in that tile and taking it down.
Yeah, I guess I maybe thought the killer was going to go around the other way, maybe?
Yeah, that's a possibility. But we did see Coal Tower Gen just about finished, and there it is. If they can get 2 people out here, I mean, that's going to be huge for these survivors.
For sure. Even 1 out's not bad, but if they can get 2...
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, theoretically speaking, if this Huntress were to finish this match in 4K with 12 hooks, much like what Undying Alliance did, even then, Undying Alliance would still end up ahead based on the gens that they're able to finish out here. And if they can get some escapes on top of which, I mean, that's a huge lead.
I disagree with this. You had a survivor in your sights, you have hatchets. Well, I would not give up that person to go for the person on the hook.
Yeah, but I don't know if you heard that. It was a very slight sound. Claudette's still near. I want to take a look at where she is.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I heard the smallest sound of a Claudette. If I was Zach here, I'd been looking around for her non-stop. Now, I see why they're doing this, because notice something about Claudette's build. Deliverance, DS, Unbreakable.
The one thing, though, I think if you were going to come back to the hook like that and leave the person, you needed to make sure they didn't get unhooked like that. Yeah, I mean, you're in danger zone.
They're in a dangerous location, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I think that they could probably use this time to get hooked, Deliverance once the jet execates are 99, and from there, guarantee that she's able to get out using Deliverance, DS, and potentially Unbreakable.
The Huntress needed to make sure that they didn't get that unhooked there.
Yeah, that's fair, that's fair. Yeah, this Claudette is wasting so much time, and the Huntress is none the wiser about what's going on here. This Claudette very purposely taking aggro here, for sure. And Huntress maybe trying to fake that window? I'm not entirely sure there. But Sprint Burst was 99. Nicely done on that. And using objects to their advantage to try and screen against the Huntress. I would bet you right now that these survivors are on the Execute as we speak in. I would probably open that up now. Yeah, open that up.
You need to take a hit.
No, this is fine. This is fine. So as long as they don't get forced out here, they should be fine. They need to take as much time as possible. Take M1s from Huntress. Don't go out before taking an M1, though. Because here's the problem. If you get hooked, even with Deliverance, you do not get a chance out now.
No.
So that is going to be first hook, plus progressions, and death on high surveillance. I think they made a mistake there by not taking a body block.
Sure.
So that is a painful thing to see, because that was such a smart play, in my opinion, to have the person with Deliverance DS to kind of take that bait, but at the end, the Huntress was able to capitalize and get a lot of points for it.
Maybe what they should have done is the person who was uninjured, after they got healed up, since they weren't going to be able to get a body block, literally just run away from the gate the opposite direction and force the Huntress to try to go for you, and then either the Huntress is going to go hook the Claudette, and then they can Deliverance play.
Yeah.
Or they go after you. If they go after you, you can just pick Claudette up and Claudette gets out. You know, either way you get 2 outs. So maybe you get 3. You know?
Yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, I think you're right in suggesting that maybe the right move for the one who was not on, you know, at the end of the day, points-wise, if they would have gotten the Death Hook and not the Claudette, then Undying Alliance would be able to save a few more points. And I'm getting some more messages saying we haven't switched screens. If you could just message in chat that, yes, we are aware, we did end up doing so, I promise. Once again, on a 10-minute delay, but we did take note of that. Hope their commentating gave you enough of an idea what was going on. But with that being said, we are moving on to the next trial of this match, where it'll be on Rancid. And I'm very curious to see who Envy will be bringing out next for the Killer After. But when Giraffe has a moment, if you could just let us know what the score is now.
For that trial, Undying Alliance got 29, Envy got 42.
And was
that brings the total for Undying Alliance is 84 and Envy 51.
So, honestly, kind of closing that gap there, and if Envy were to get another match like that, they could bring it to where the last game really decides it all.
Definitely. They're going to need to post up another good game, though. If they have a 4-game here, it's pretty much over at that point, I feel like. So they need to have another good game right here, though.
Exactly. Well, with that being said, just waiting on Envy to send out an invite for this next match. I'm not sure if Zach is going to be killing again or if it'll be someone else. But with that being said, it was interesting to see Huntress there. I mean, realistically speaking, I think Huntress really suffers from certain situations where there's those really tight tiles where she's not able to really get much value out of her hatchets, but I'll give credit's due to Zach. You know, really was able to optimize the Huntress gameplay and utilize those hatchets in those tight quarters to try and get some downs.
Oh, sorry, Gil. Apparently Twitch streams they were saved because they were able to watch some of the stream through my glasses reflection.
I can tell you don't have that anti-glare there, Psycho.
No. I find that funny.
Oh, criminy. But yeah, I do apologize about that once again, guys. You know, fully understand that things like that can happen, but hopefully our commentating did you enough justice to understand what was going on in the meanwhile, and hopefully didn't miss too much information. But with that being said, do we know who the next killer is going to be, Giraffe? So just let them know to invite me when they have a moment. Alrighty, though. So...
I don't know the killer, but I will find out.
Yes, and please remind Envy to once again make sure that they do send the killer build.
Absolutely, we need to see that.
Yes, we just want to make sure that the reason for that rule, for those who may not understand why the build is being sent to the refs in their team-specific chats, is to just ensure that we don't have to do a reset at any point in time. You know, try and make it as streamlined as possible at the very least. But overall, did a really good job. And also, Lollygag, long time no see. For those who don't know, I also stream some Dead by Daylight, and I've run across quite a number of survivors, both in COTF, comp, and just some general Twitch streamers and survivors, Lollygag being one of them. So hello. Hope they're having an amazing day, and very happy to see you here on Champions of the Fog. But... Oh, what's up?
Just quick question. We're changing the map now, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
It is going to be Rancid for map 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking forward to seeing, you know, what we see here. Obviously, for those who may have watched my stream over on my channel, I streamed my match of Sample Text versus How Did We Get Here? And with that being said, we were able to see a use of Wraith, as I played Wraith of All Seen. And, you know, with that type of map where there's a lot of corn, All Seen gets a ton of value, to say the least.
I was not aware Little Rugar was back on this team.
Yep, Little Rugard is on Envy. So, Little Rugard actually was the one who played Plague last week in round 1 against Sample Text, where Envy did manage to get a victory against them.
I'm curious to see, you know, they need to post up a good game. You got Rugard in there.
Oh.
This might be the time for the Blighty Boy, you know, maybe.
You know, that might not be a bad idea, all things considered. And accidentally invited Zach there. I meant to invite Undying Alliance, not Envy.
I don't play a ton of Blight, but I don't think he's particularly bad on Rancid, is he?
So the objects on Rancid are a bit easier for Blight. They're not as slippery as some others, especially trees. Trees tend to be like the worst thing you can try and bounce off as Blight. With that being said, though, the one downside of most of the Coldwood maps, especially some like Rotten Fields, is all that open area at times within the corn. There's not many objects to bounce around, so Blight could be an option, but it might not be the best option, theoretically speaking. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Clown or Wraith with either Cigar Box or All Seen, to be honest.
Ah, the Gothic G build.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I do enjoy that Cigar Box on certain maps. You know, some of them, it's meh, But on places like Dead Dog, where you have a lot of those bushes that survivors hide in, or Corn, then, you know, both of those add-ons make a world of difference.
I still have nightmares of Claudettes hiding in bushes on Dead Dog Hill. It's horrible.
That's why you need to have a good headset, be able to listen in and, like, okay, is that a Claudette moaning in pain in that bush? It is. And I just also walk through, like, every bush on Dead Dog. I do not hesitate to just go, okay, let me just double check. If the gen has been worked on here, let me just kind of veer off in this direction, see if maybe they're hiding in a bush, and if I bump into something, then I just whack it immediately.
I can't tell you how many survivors I've accidentally found on Yomoko through walking through those bamboo leaves just by getting stuck and like, oh yeah, I'm getting stuck on something. Let me look down.
Yep. I have done that way too often where I've walked through tall grass and just been like, why am I stuck? Look down like, oh, that would make sense why. It's a nice little surprise for any killer, to say the least. Oh, what's that?
Sorry, it's just we're good to go.
Awesome. In that case, I'll let them know that we are ready to go. And with that being said, we are seeing Little Rugard, and, you know, there is another potential killer here I'd love to see, and we have not seen in a hot minute, which would be Trickster. I'm not sure if those of you might have already checked out Little Rugard, but if you haven't, highly recommend it. One of my co-hosts here as well as a competitor in Champions of Fog, obviously, and formerly Vigo's Court. But as of recent, Rugard has decided to be a Trickster main. So maybe we might see a Trickster gameplay.
Perhaps. We'll see.
I would absolutely love to see it. You know, I've watched some of Rugard's gameplay, and he knows what he's doing and knows what maps he's good on and what maps he isn't. I mean, personally, I still put Trickster in E tier because of that fact. If they're not balanced on every map, then it kind of brings them down a little bit, in my personal opinion. Then again, I guess the same could be said for, like, Deathlinger on Mother's Dwelling, right?
Then again, this map does have some open areas, and Trickster thrives in open areas.
Yeah, open areas, some lower tiles. Some of those hay bales are a little bit tricky to kind of maneuver around. But, you know, it's a possibility. I would love to see it. With that being said, I believe we're waiting on one last survivor to ready on up, and then we'll begin the third trial of this match, where this is really going to be a make-or-break moment for Envy. If they're able to make up the points that they're behind, then at the end of the day, it comes down to their survivor team to try and close out this match. So
yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting game here. Rugard needs to post a good game, otherwise this could be it for Envy. It's going to be hard for them to come back from if they don't have a good game here. As with the scoring system is, you need to have your killers having decent games.
Yep.
You only get so many points as Survivor, so you can only make up so much of a deficit on Survivor. It's hard to make up a deficit on Survivor. It's easier to make it up on Killer if you can manage to do it.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, like I've said before, and I'll say it again, though I've been very impressed with these killers in these games, is that an ideal scenario for any killer in Champions of the Fog is to get a 2K with 6 hooks. That there ends the game in a draw. Or 9 hooks, 1K, same idea, ends the game in a draw. But if you're able to manage more than that, of course, that is just icing on the cake. And in this situation, it's much easier to get a burst of points on Killer than it is on Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting to see if they break out another top 8 killer. We already saw Spirit, which is quite surprising. And who knows, maybe we will see Blight after all.
Maybe. They'd be burning 2 of their best killers early, but, you know, you need to get for first place to move on to playoffs, finals, otherwise you can't make it, so...
I mean, that's a fair point. For those who don't know, basically how this league will end is with each division having one team coming forward with the best record to enter into the finals. So, very excited to see who those teams are. Of course, Envy, if they get the win, is undefeated. And theoretically speaking, so is Undying Alliance, as they have gotten a tie from Circumstances in their round 1 matchup. So, this will be very interesting indeed. But
definitely better to win your games early. This way, the last couple of games are a little bit less stressful for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially with some high-caliber teams, obviously, we unfortunately do mourn the loss of Loop Artists here in Champions of the Fog. But we do welcome Cerebral Assassins, who have now taken their place. And Interesting.
Ooh.
We found a pig. That is a interesting thing
Now-
indeed.
This is a map, although it does have some bad spawns, where Ruin and Dying, I would expect to get more work just by how big this map is.
I mean, absolutely. Not to mention the fact that Pig really benefits from Ruin, of course, because as you do put a bear trap on one survivor, if it's active, you know, that's at least one survivor off of gens trying to get their bear trap off. And especially in this league where Tampered Timer and Jigsaw Sketch or Creative Gears are allowed, you know, you want to get that thing off ASAP, for you better bet that you are going to die in 2 minutes or less.
I do find the Sloppy Butcher a little bit interesting on the Pig. Maybe he wants to use it and try to maybe use audio to locate the survivors and sneak up on them maybe while they're injured.
Well, so the
Maybe
benefit
they're
of
doing
Sloppy in this case, honestly, is actually the fact that it incentivizes the survivors not to go for heals after an unhook on someone with a bear trap on head. So it then means that if you do find a survivor on a box, for example, you can down them and hook them instead. It A, will reset their time spent on that box, but B, will also result in them getting an extra hook state, so worst comes to worst, you still get a kill. And Rugar doing an amazing job checking his corners, able to find this survivor just kind of chilling out there. And Ocean Flayer trying to make it back to some vaults here to try and make as much distance as possible. Let's see if this does result in a early down.
You might see a crouch mind game approaching here.
I don't know. I think in this instance you don't want to, because that undetectable stat will basically reset your window vaults, where this here does result in a down, and it looks like Rue has found another survivor on the gen, but opts to go for the bear trap first.
Yeah, I don't think they were even really trying to get more pressure as much as they wanted to chase them off the gen. Let that Ruin start doing some work. Oh, wait, flashlight!
Wow!
Oh, flashlight find! Oh,
Did
was that
not
Lollygag?
expect to see that. Now, I will say this, at the very least, Ocean does now have a trap on head, so if they do finish a gen here, that will start that 2-minute countdown, and will be quite punishing. And at the very least, if Ocean respects that timer, will mean that there's going to be a survivor off a gen, not including this survivor currently in chase in addition to. So kind of an interesting scenario there with that flashlight save. I wonder if maybe they might go for a second one. I may have heard footsteps there that were not the pig, so they may have been nearby. But we do see now 2 gens go off, which, you know, in most cases is really good for these survivors. But I don't know, Pig can be quite devastating. Pig, surprisingly, if you look at the data, has the highest kill ratio of all the killers in the game. Now, that being said, that is because of RNG had with these bear traps, and they can be devastating if you just get the wrong RNG.
For sure, especially on a big map like this, it can be really take a lot of time for you to search all the boxes. And if you pop a gen immediately after you get the trap on your head, if it's like the last box, you won't have enough time to search them all.
No, absolutely, and that's where it kind of comes into discussion. Do you go for the likes of Jigsaw Trap to decrease their potential of getting the right one, or do you go for Creative Gears, where it extends the time taken on those boxes? It's a really hard decision to make as a Pig player. You kind of have to figure out where the RNG is going to land you on these maps with those boxes.
I definitely do think the most important thing, and I'm scared they didn't do it here, is you got to make sure you give the survivors a chance to search a box or two before you pop a gen. So that they
Yep,
don't die.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
look what's happening.
I want to stick on Steve here for a bit, because if you look at this and base the timing, he only has 45 seconds left to get this bear trap off, and thankfully he does.
Ooh, also Surveillance taking their hat off too, I believe. That's really lucky for that team.
Yeah, that was a very, very close one, and it looks like, yeah, both of them are off now, and that is a rough spot for the Pig to be in now, because that's 2 gens down with only 1 hook. So it's going to be a tough situation, but getting that second survivor down, good news. Let's see if they're able to get the bear trap in time before that gen pops, and they do. So not only will Surveillance be going back up on hook, but also will have another bear trap to contend with.
But not that many hooks, so this is only the second hook of the game.
Yeah,
Gens left.
it's a rough position to be in. It's why that some Pig players will make the decision to slug out the first survivor they find, put a bear trap, and then contest gens instead, because not only will that mean that, you know, that one person who slugged out is off of gens, It'll also mean that the person going for the pickup is off of gens, and you can pressure a third gen on top of which, meaning that ideally, only one person's on gens, and that may have been the right play here for Rugard, as we do see a ton of gen pressure going up against him.
That ruin's still active, though. So a lot.
It is, but with only one bear trap left, it's going to be a tough scenario, because once you're kind of exhausted all your bear traps, you're kind of left, you know, blowing in the wind. All you have then as pig is your crouch, which, you know, smart survivors will be able to play around. And speaking of, there goes Ruin. You are a 1 perk pig now. So this will be a very interesting situation. Now, if I was Rugard, I'd be attentive of the fact that there's a box right outside of basement, and I would assume that once they get out of basement, they'll go immediately for that box. So it might be something where you might be able to try and tunnel out a survivor, try and get some more points here. Good bait, though, by Ocean of Flavor, baiting out that vault there. But Rugard responding in kind to a good little mind game. But will it be enough? And wow! I don't know if, you know, this is just really good play by Ocean or Rugard falling under pressure, but those were some good dodges.
It is an Ocean of Flavor. The flavor is definitely that was some 360 action. That was pretty cool.
No, that was some pretty good stuff. You know, personally, I'll always say that 360 is very flashy, it's cool and all, doesn't usually get you too much value, but I mean, that there's that example. Sometimes it can just extend that chase a little bit more, and that can go a whole long way.
5 to 10 seconds can add up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that can cost you or win you a match at the end of the day.
Ooh, you see 2 gens very highly worked on now.
Yep, and I think they might be 99 those on purpose, knowing that Ruin is gone with no pop in hand. They might be just setting those up so that way Nancy's able to get the bear trap off before going for the execates. I think that would make the most sense in this type of scenario. But once again, Rugard back on the survivors, and looks like he's going to opt for the tunnel on Ocean, which might be a little bit of a mistake, in my opinion. The reason why I say this is, though Decisive Strike does not guarantee that you will become the Obsession, it does heighten your chances of it, suggesting that out of these 4 survivors, Ocean's more likely than not to be the Obsession.
And if you need a DS here, that means 1, maybe 2 gens are popping. There goes the first anyway.
Yep, and that means that Nancy's bear trap is now active, and so she now has 2 minutes to get it off. Honestly, at this point, I would just pop that other gen that we saw 99 and, you know, let Nancy kind of go around while you guys are opening up the execates, right? That'd make the most sense to me.
This is looking really dangerous here.
Yeah, especially with Ocean back in chase. Now, Rugard knows for a fact that Ocean does not have DS based on the fact that he's on a gen. So this will at least try and stop some of the bleeding. And we'll get Ocean back on the hook. Now, I do think this might be Ocean's first hook, or is this second? His second, right?
Second.
Yeah, I think Ocean would have been on third if it was not for that flashlight save at the beginning.
And there goes the last gen.
Last gen, Nancy no longer has a bear trap, meaning that she can exit freely now. I mean, Rugard's in a really, really tough spot, and I mean, he's close to what I was talking about earlier about getting that 2K6 hook, but it's going to be hard to bring that about.
Yeah. Oh, he sees the hatch, though.
I mean, that's good and all, but I bet you they're already on this execute. Yep, look at that. And if they are smart, they'll commit to it, open it up, take the hit, and ooh, sprint burst, extending that chase even further.
Yeah, I was saying maybe they're going for the rescue, and they are.
Well, no blind, but Claudette will be pushed out of the game. I mean, it makes a lot of sense here. It reduces resources that the survivors have available to them, but if I am a betting man, which I am in this instance, they're already on the other execute.
I noticed you were going to be able to get to the gate in hopes to try to find Ocean. That's your only hope of getting another kill.
Yep. Now, I will note here that Ocean actually opted to go for the other execute. A little bit of a cheeky play there.
We see a 4-man escape for Undying here, and that should pretty much, I think, seal the deal. I think at least make it very, very hard.
Yes, it'll make it very difficult. If he was able to get 2 kills, that would have definitely made it a much tighter match, as that would have tied up this trial here. But with getting 4 people out, that's a lot of points that he ended up, giving Undying Alliance. So I'm interested to see from Giraffe what the point totals are.
Total is now Undying Alliance with 134 and Envy with 71.
So 134 to 71.
That's
So
a 63-point difference.
yeah, which is more than you can get on either Survivor or Killer. So for lack of a better term, that will sure up this match here, and Undying Alliance will secure their win. With that being said, though, we are still going to play out the last trial, so I will need an invite from Undying Alliance's Killer.
This is the time you put in a killer main who maybe is new to competitive or has been working on something that's not a meta killer that you could burn to give them experience and stuff like that. This is the perfect time to do something like that.
No, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, it makes a lot of sense to me to bring in someone who, might not have much experience, as you said, or might be trying out another build. Might as well try it out live at this point. Obviously, you don't want to bring in a top 8 killer because you don't really have to. You might probably want to bring in, a trickster or a trapper, something like that, right?
You get like a pressure-free game to be able to play.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, like I said, the game is pretty much in the bag now for Undying Alliance, and all they have to do is just play it out. So, very, very interesting match there. I mean, realistically speaking, outside of that flashlight save, Rugar did a lot of things right. But unfortunately, Undying Alliance was just able to, secure it in the end and ensure that all that early game pressure just kind of went nowhere.
I think I disagree with the use of Sloppy, especially with the way he was playing. He wasn't quite really tunneling anybody going through boxes.
Well, yeah, that's the biggest thing I will say was a little bit of a mistake. Normally, when I am, playing Pig, I'm very much into patrolling boxes as much as I am patrolling gens. So that's a really big factor there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just feel like, that maybe he could have had different make perk instead of that Sloppy there. It might have made the game a little bit easier on him.
No, 100%, 100%. With that being said, Giraffe, by chance, do we know who the killer for Undying Alliance is going to be here? I imagine it will be High Surveillance, but I'm not entirely certain.
The link is High Surveillance, yes.
Perfect. Well, in that case, I will try and join them as soon as they enter into a lobby. And it looks like they're in the menus as of this moment. But yeah, overall, really, really tight matches. And, I think the biggest thing is, I guess my question here is, you're thinking that Sly Butcher wasn't really useful there. What perk would you replace that with? Would you replace it with Surveillance? Would you replace it with Save the Best for Last? What are your thoughts there?
Save the Best for Last is definitely one I would be considering, for sure, on a map like that. There's lots of other perks you can consider. Trying to think of what else would be decent.
I mean, Save and Surveillance are the main 2 things that I would think of, especially if Ruin in play.
You know what perk is something I think is a little bit under the radar that I think works well in this league settings with rule set that no one really runs yet that I've seen? Rancor, if you get a guaranteed one-shot down Mori at the end of the game on somebody, it can be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. That Mori does account for a good number of points. So if, in instance, you're kind of in a pinch and trying to stop the bleeding, they do get to the end of the game. They finish out the gens. You just want to remove one survivor from the match. That is a possibility. Obviously, those survivors should be very well aware that Rancor's in play. But that would make a lot of sense, in my opinion.
I do love running, especially if you're running a Save the Best for Last build. Because you could just say, okay, I'm ignoring my obsession, and then you hit the end game. Maybe you've killed 1 or 2 already, and then you go, okay, now I destroy my obsession. And now I haven't hooked them at all for the game, and I get, max points for doing, almost no work.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's fair. That is a thought process. The only reason why I don't care for Rancor all too often, even though it is technically what I refer to as a better Bitter Murmur, is the fact that it's a perk that usually only sees value in the end game. Same reason why I don't like Noed for that exact reason.
Well, I feel like it works on the killers that Bitter Murmur works good for. Your Huntresses, your Death Slingers, and basically any killer that it's good to know where the survivors are going to really heavily. can really benefit from it. So I feel like Rancor's not terrible on the right killers.
No, I'd agree. It's definitely a choice perk where it has to be used in ideal scenarios. And it looks like Surveillance has invited me. Perfect. And we'll get Envy in on here to fill the lobby. Alright. I'm gonna just answer this real quick after I invite Zach. And just want to confirm one more time so our math is correct. You know, sometimes late at night it can kind of be a little bit off, but Giraffe, is it correct in saying that at this point in time that Envy is unable to win based on point totals?
Even if they completed 5 gens and got a 4-man escape with no hooks, they could not win.
Sounds good. I do appreciate that clarification, and that there pretty much settles it, and I'll be interested to see what high Surveillance brings to kind of close us out. Like I said, you know, it could be a Trapper, could be a Trickster, could be a Ghostface, what have you, someone who's not in the top 8 of killers, and we'll try and close out this match. But we do see everyone here, and just need to get the go-ahead from Giraffe when we get all the builds in hand.
Those are all good, so they just gotta set them up.
Alright. And just making sure that they're locked in, and that the map is correct.
You know what? So, with, Gil, what's your favorite killer and survivor cosmetic in the game?
My favorite killer and survivor cosmetic, you say? So, favorite killer cosmetic... Ooh, that's a tough one. I really like Blighted Wraith, though I will say this most recent edition of the Crypt TV skins has been freaking amazing. Especially the Hag's Birch Witch. The nice thing about that one specifically, it's not a linked skin, so you can actually mix it with the ashen hair on Hag, and with the sunken in eyes and her just being a pale white and birch texture, it looks amazing, utterly terrifying.
Yeah, I do love the Crypt TV skins as well.
Yeah, I really hope that they introduce things like the Sunny cult. Was it the Sunny family cult for Legion? I think that would be beautiful.
I'd like to see maybe Shelly on the twins.
I could see that. I could see that.
Or the I forget what it was called. The other show, Blackheart, maybe on twins as well. Something. Just the twins need cosmetics in general. Please behavior. We have one skin other than the base recolors. We need more. Come on.
I'm sure they have some in the works, but yeah, I mean, I really hope that they do more not compilations, but crossovers and partnerships like that in the future. But beyond that, if I had to look at other skins, Blighted Wraith, really big on that. Just such a amazing and highly detailed skin. For survivors, I mean, I personally like the Fancy Felix. He is my main after all. Use the default black pants plus the fancy top. It's great.
I love the black metal Jeff skin. That's my favorite shirt.
Yeah, I never see it without that, but looks like we're jumping right into the match, and we got a Trickster. Very excited to see this.
Very, very much so.
Now, I am surprised about one thing, that it looks like, if I'm not mistaken about that add-on, not the USB reduces the amount of laceration necessary in order to get an injure and or down, but the other one I think is just increasing the amount of knives that you have available to you, if I'm not mistaken. I think it raises it by 15.
Ooh, that was a quick down, though.
Very, very quick down. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Trickster, and we might see a flashlight save here. We do indeed. Oh, it was early. Wow, using a lot of resources there between that flashlight and Firecracker to try and get that save. And it almost worked.
That would have been hilarious.
I mean, it would have made sense, right? You know, most killers look down when they're getting flashlight, then the Firecrackers, you have to look up. So, some interesting plays. And I like that dedication to the save. But
B tier who?
Yeah, I mean, he's he's really doing well here. The biggest thing about Trickstar, I will always say, is pressuring unhooks like this. He's just become such a strong killer, and looks like, not sure what's going on there. DC, maybe? Just admitting defeat at the end, or... If Giraffe, you could check on in and see what happened there. Did look like it was within, 2 minutes. Green, because we
Somebody brought a green med kit.
Oh, I see. I'm glad that they noticed it.
No changes.
Yep. Did they not show that in the build that they presented?
I asked if they had any build changes, and they said no.
Gotcha. Well, with that being said, I mean, that there would be a reset at the behest of high surveillance. So I am going to bring it up to them. I mean, realistically speaking, it's why we have the rules to present builds, and they did make a mistake there. 1, 2, reset. So I'm just going to let high surveillance know that it's up to them if they want to reset. Otherwise, you know, we'll close out the match there as the point totals kind of are already in their favor.
If they do reset, can Envy bring different members or swap members?
Theoretically speaking, the answer is yes. There is no rule currently that goes against them.
Yeah, we actually had that happen the first week where we brought a map and we thought it was illegal, and it unfortunately wasn't. And then we played the entire game, and then we had a reset. And luckily, we were able to change things because Joker had left and gone to sleep.
Yep. So it looks like Surveillance is going to be opting for the reset. Once again, as a reminder, please make sure that you verify your builds. And from there, ensure that it's the right medkits. You should be sending your screenshot from the in-game lobby. If an instance that it does become an issue, I might consider... that a penalty is put into place. What that penalty will be, I'd have to figure that out. So I'll analyze that. I'm gonna send more message.
Speaking of cosmetics, it'd be interesting. Maybe we see a Goosebumps crossover would be kind of interesting. That's one way they could take it. Tales from the Crypt, maybe.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, that would be an interesting one. I actually haven't heard of Goosebumps in a long while. Are they, like... I guess the question is that IP still a thing?
The franchise is still a thing. I don't think they make books anymore, but I think, like, they're still, like... Somebody owns it and makes money off of it.
Fair play.
I mean, they made movies recently, so they have to exist in some kind. I don't know if R.L. Stine still exists in the company or what, but I know, you know, you can get maybe like a Slappy on the Twins. You know, there's lots of iconic things you can do there.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be a horrible idea. So, I mean, I could really see that. Just overall, there's a whole lot of places that they can go. And also, Draft, we could just verify and have, whatchamacallit, Envy resend their builds just to ensure that there's no, mix-ups by chance. But does look like we have everyone in the lobby. Once we do have the builds confirmed, we should be good to go. So I guess the question is, you know, let's have an open forum real quick, both from chat and, of course, Psycho U2. So if an instance that type of thing happens, obviously, if it's caught within 2 minutes, we try and do a reset. It counts against their DC penalty in the end. So obviously, Envy is down 1 DC, so they only have 2 more that they can really apply here.
Maybe an idea is instead of resetting, instead of doing points either, the punishment should be if a survivor brings in the wrong item, that they have to come in the next challenge with no item.
Yeah, but then it ends up in this situation, right? To where they bring in the wrong item. It's the last trial of the match. So would that then apply to the next match thereafter?
Well, if it resets. Like, well, sorry, it would still reset, but when you come back, you have to run no item rather than losing points.
Okay, I see what you're saying. If it does reset, then you lose the item. I see. That makes a bit of sense. That could be an idea. So I'll have to think of some things, like I said, for those in chat as well. If, you know, you have some thoughts on how that might want to be applied, please don't feel, you know, please feel free to provide me feedback. You know, we are still developing stuff like that on, you know, what penalties should be applied, what penalties shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, no one's gonna come up with and talk about the idea unless you mention it, you know?
Exactly. But with that being said, I just want to confirm, Draft, are we good on Survivor builds this time around?
Good.
We're good? Alright. Ready to go. Well, I will just do the favor of double-checking really quickly in the spectator screen. Maybe it still should be best practice. I was hoping with the build checks via Discord that this wouldn't be an issue, but maybe still doing just a quick peek at the survivors, making sure we don't see any greens in hand wouldn't be a horrible idea if worse comes to worse. But with that being said, we are jumping right back into this match, and I do believe that High Surveillance is bringing in Trickster again, where they'll be probably bringing the same add-ons, same build. You know, I don't think they're too worried, of course, since they do have a locked-in win at this point in time.
For sure, they're just trying to have a fun game, probably maybe pop off on stream for Twitch chat.
Exactly. No doubt about that. Well, that being said, let's see if they get such an explosive start as they did then. I mean, I don't exactly doubt that they will. They seem pretty well-versed in Trickster, based on what we were seeing there.
Does Trickster's knives have drop to them?
Very slight drop. It's kind of unnoticeable for the most part, but yes. The answer is yes.
But if you throw so you theoretically could go for cross maps with Trickster.
You could. There's not too much drop, so most times it's just going to go up and over, but theoretically speaking, if you were to angle it up in an arch, it could theoretically work, I think. I don't know how accurate you could be in that way, but theoretically speaking, if you are a god with aim and arching that, then maybe.
I can't wait for there to be a clip on Reddit for like survivors got like one laceration, they get away and they're across the map, and then they just get hit by a random knife.
I mean, I'll say I was tossing knives kind of randomly during a main event, and I just all of a sudden heard a ping like, "Excuse me? Where are you at?" I was kind of just tossing towards a gen, like, okay, I guess. And I'm not going to complain with a single laceration meter there. Alright, looks like they're good this time. All yellow across the board. And it does look like no double up on perks. Actually, in fact, it doesn't even look like BT's in play. With that being said, looks like maybe Envy feels a little bit apologetic as we do see a broken ace here, and maybe giving them a hook to start off with, just to show, hey, sorry about the reset, here you go.
No, Guilt, that's a tactical saying. That ace is going to unbreakable himself 5 times in this game.
You know, to be fair, I will note that most people do not read the second line of No Mither, so it would not be surprising. Very often, I'll have a killer slug me when I'm doing my gen build, in which case... Nope. Trickster here trying for a 360 play. Didn't work out too well. And will get pout stunned. Ace really just trying to keep the Trickster's attention there with that flashlight click, and will end up going down. Let's see here. Main event is going to spam knives and see if what lands, what doesn't. Unfortunately, with Trickster, you can't really do too much with a grab there unless the Survivor, as we saw, does a slow vault, which did seem to be the case. So I think Envy may be taking this last match in jest, and I do believe that Ace did pick himself up, by the way.
Oh, no Mither value! No Mither value, chat! You saw it here! New broken perk! Please nerf!
Oh, but Trickster I don't think is messing around no more.
You gonna do it again? Oh, why you gotta pick him up?
But we do see a firecracker. Does not look like it was close enough, though. It seemed like it may have been behind him, suggesting that maybe Trickster had tried to double back. But it did not work as well as maybe they had planned. There's the dead hard and the whiff. Great job on Tracer's part. And, you know, this looks pretty reminiscent of the beginning of last match. I think Envy at this point has done their due diligence to kind of pay High Surveillance back for their mistake. With that being said, I am curious to see if maybe at this point in time Envy will actually start working on gens, and so far does look to be the case. They're trying to work out this next gen here and utilizing Built to Last on a beefy little med kit there for some extra value. All the while though, looks like Zarina taking some knives in exchange for a hook, which might not work out well. But I get a feeling that Dazzy might have a DS in hand.
Perhaps.
I mean, could have been a bait too, and it looks like it was. So it looks like Trix will have to jump off that gen before too long in order to try and save his teammates. I mean, at the end of the day, like we said, this match is kind of at the for fun, as there really is no way for Envy to make up any points.
Yeah. If I was High Surveillance in here, I would have came in here full on Mad Grit, Iron Grasp, Agitation, ready to go.
Yeah, at the end of the day, though, I mean, I'll give credit where it's due. In all of the beginning of last match, they did a really amazing job of, you know, downing survivors as they're playing it through. Obviously, this match, Envy kind of just thrown it to the wind for obvious reason. You know, I think they just had enough. Oh, looks like maybe...
Trying to give him hatch?
It kind of seems that way. Yeah, looking around for it, honestly, it's not going to spawn yet, so just waiting on their survivors to suicide on hook. Maybe they'll communicate that.
Hatch is going to spawn right by that blue box.
Yeah, it's possible.
Right, to his right. To his right. I'm calling it, chat. Right there, to his right.
Let's see. We'll take a listen. And verdict is... nope. Yeah, this is the part where, personally, I just dribble the survivor at this point and let them go find it on their own. I have given up on being the Sherpa for these survivors when trying to give them hatch, I'll be honest.
Well, there's nothing worse when you're carrying a survivor and you're trying to give them hatch.
And they keep on wiggling?
Or they get off and they think that they did something crazily good when you just let them get out.
Yep.
And they go through the game chat.
I mean, honestly, I do that all the time. I've done that a few times where, like, a survivor will sit at a pallet and I'll just be like, no, I'm not going to let you pallet stun me. And those, like, teabagging one to get the pallet stun was like, no. You know, if you hit me with that pallet, I'm going to kill you now. I've revoked your right to live.
I'm just glad that the devs finally made the killers have the ability to close the hatch. The worst thing ever in this game, ever. Was
the old hatch standoffs? Absolutely.
The worst thing in this game ever.
Oh, is Trixter going to do it?
Wait a minute. Oh,
is there going to be him? No, okay. I think you thought about it for a second there, just a wee bit.
thought about it.
But with that being said, that there is the end of this match. As we said before, this trial here was for naught, as Undyne Alliance had the points needed to get the win. And so this one was more or less just to close it out.
For sure.
But with that being said, some really, really good plays, really close match of the first two. That third one, you know, really sealing the deal for Undyne Alliance. But overall, had a great time, and that does mean that Undyne Alliance is now, for all intent purpose, 2-0 in their division, while Envy is now 1-1. I'll make sure to remember to create a standings Excel that I can put over in the Champions of the Fog Discord for those interested. But with that being said, we will be ending the stream here. But before we go, Psycho, I know that you stream on and off. If everyone in chat wanted to come say hi, where would they find you?
I stream at Twitch, Psycho Mantis. That's SYKO_Mantis. I'm trying to get back into streaming more often than I used to do it.
Awesome. And for those who don't know already, I am Guiltspire. You can catch me over on twitch.tv/Guiltspire, GILTSPIRE. But with that being said, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you all next time. Bye-bye!